Hello, welcome to Papa Nick's Music. I am, as always, your host, Papa Nick Lewis. And today we are wrapping up our weeks-long discussion of our favorite directors here at Papa Nick's Music. As I have said for the last couple of videos, I really like movies. I love movies. I like narrative art in general. But I really like a good movie. I watch anywhere from 1 to 3 movies a day, depending on what other demands I have on my time. I have, as I have mentioned in the last couple of videos, a personal library of media here at the international headquarters of the multimedia entertainment conglomerate that is Papa Nick's Music. That when we include Blu-rays, DVDs, videotapes, downloads, all titles, I've got probably about 1,500 titles, give or take. Because I like watching movies. I watch a lot of movies. But here's the thing. I don't consider myself a cinema buff or anything like that. I like stories. I like good stories. And so I tend to watch movies that are genre movies. I like, action adventure and science fiction and fantasy and mysteries and, comedies and, stuff like that. I like stories. I like good stories. So if I'm going to go watch a movie, or if I'm going to pick a movie off of a streaming service or something like that, the first thing I go by is, does this look like it's going to be an entertaining story? The second criteria that I will use, second criterion, is the actors, because I do appreciate good acting. I am aware of good acting when I see it. Excuse me. But beyond that, I'm mostly just taking the movie as it comes, right? I am, at some level, subconsciously aware of things like, camera movement and composition and lighting and things like that. The filmic aspects of the movie. But I'm not consciously aware of those things unless they are obstructive, right? I'm aware of the lighting when I realize that I can't see what's going on. I'm aware of camera movement when it's so herky-jerky that I can't tell what's happening, right? Which just means if a movie is competently directed, I'll probably like it, Now, I've gone through this spiel for the last 2 videos that I've done, and trotted it out again today. What I haven't done is taken the extra step and said, okay, yeah, I'm not consciously aware of direction as I'm watching a movie for the first time, but if I like a movie, I pay attention to who did what. And after a while, I start realizing, wait, I've seen movies that this person has directed before, and I like those movies. I think I'll probably like this movie as well. And I come to recognize directors that I like, so that for select directors, they are now a reason that I will go see the movie. I don't see movies in general because of their direction, but I see movies that are directed by directors I like because they were directed by directors I like. Right? Cool. So last week I started out the series with my top 10 directors that I just don't get, mostly to lay this. I like genre picture groundwork. I'm not in it for the art, baby. And then last week I gave you my top 10 choices who were, I thought, conventional choices. They normally show up in, lists of great directors. This week I am giving you my top 10 favorite directors who are unconventional choices for a list like this. I have one of my directors who has won an Oscar for directing, and I almost took that person off the list, because if you've gotten an Oscar, then that's an argument that says that you're going to be a conventional pick. I left him on, and I'll explain when I get to it. For the most part, these are not that kind of director. These are not the directors that normally crop up when you have somebody giving you a list of the 10 greatest directors of all time. These guys aren't going to be showing up for that. But they are directors that I deeply admire. They are directors of whom it could be said, I'll make it work. These are directors who, if I know they direct the movie I'm going to want to see the movie, regardless of what the story is, regardless of who the actor is. I will see the movie on the strength of this name in the directed by credit. Cool? Cool. Before I get into this list, though, I have to talk about the subjectivity notice. We firmly believe here at Papa Nick's Music that there's no such thing as objectively good or objectively bad art. There's only art that we like and art that we do not. And as long as we keep that in mind, this is a wonderful conversation. It's entertaining, I think anyway. It's fun. It's informative. It is our chance to see the world from somebody else's perspective, and I would argue that is always a good thing. But the conversation goes right down the shit chute the moment somebody insists on being seen as objectively right. So, as you watch this, just keep in mind, I am not making objective claims here. Obviously, I'm not, because I don't think they can be made. If you decide to comment in response to something that I've said, I strongly encourage that, by the way. I always love hearing from you. But if you do choose to comment, if you want to argue with me, arguing is allowed. Just remember, this is all subjective. So if you could avoid objective framework in your comment, I would appreciate it. Ready? Okay, here we go. Now, as with last week, if I'm talking about my favorites, my only real qualification for entry into the conversation is that I have to have seen at least 5 movies that director has directed. And as long as I have seen at least 5 movies, okay, that got them admission into the park. Now, once I've got them in the park, it's okay. If you're a conventional choice, you go over to that side. If you're an unconventional choice, you're over here in the lesser critically acclaimed side. From that point on, it's okay. Of the movies of yours that I've seen, how many of them are movies that I really, really love, right? And that's the rough discussion of how I ranked these things. And I also gave myself a completely arbitrary prohibition. We're not doing any honorable mentions. I realized very quickly if I started including honorable mentions, this is going to be a 3-hour-long video, and I don't want to do that. So, forced myself to cut it off at 10. Are we ready? Here it comes. Coming in at number 10, we have Tony Scott. I really like Tony Scott's movies. I briefly considered Ridley, older brother Ridley, for my conventional choice last week. He would have made it into the honorable mention if I had given myself the flexibility of honorable mentions last week. I really like Tony Scott's movies. I think they are very well done. The fact that he can create a certain amount of tension in me as I'm watching his movies, even when I know what's going to happen. I recently watched Unstoppable again. I saw Unstoppable when it first came out. Unstoppable was the last movie that he released before he sadly committed suicide. And I watched it again within the last week or so. And there is absolutely nothing in that movie that is surprising. As soon as the movie starts, I know exactly what's going to happen. When I saw it the first time, as soon as it started, I knew exactly what was going to happen. So much so that as soon as I saw T.J. Miller's name appear in the credits, I thought, okay, here's one of the guys that's going to be the problem, because that's all T.J. Miller does. He plays the same character in every movie. He's either a very good, if extremely limited actor, or not a particularly nice guy. But I digress. So the only real surprise to me was which of the two goofballs was going to be the primary agent for getting the tragedy underway. But once that train is heading down the track, I know exactly what's going to happen. You can. Everything about it is entirely predictable. And yet it was still entertaining to watch and still riveted my attention to it, even though I knew everything that was going to happen before it happened. That is, as far as I'm concerned, the sign of a good director working with a mediocre script. give Tony Scott a good script to work with, and he does wonders. My hallmark of quality, the movie that I would point out as being why I love Tony Scott, Tony Scott, would be Crimson Tide. Oh my God, I love it. It's one of my favorite submarine movies, and I love me a good submarine movie. So, number 10 director on my unconventional choices list, Tony Scott. At number 9, okay, when I first generated my list here, you start by thinking of everybody who could possibly be on the list, right? And then you go through and you of those, I know I want to save these because I really like these. I need to fill out the 10, which means I need, say, in this case, I think I needed 5 more, 6 more, something like that. So I need a few more. So everybody who's eligible, we go ahead and dump them into the thing. And then I just go through and I start, eliminating. Okay, I got to keep these. So, okay, I'll get rid of you, and I'll get rid of you, and I'll get rid of you. And you get it down to 10. And then arranging the 10 mostly is just a matter of, okay, out of all 10 of these, which one is my favorite? Right? Okay, now I've taken that one out. Which one is my next favorite, right? Which sometimes gets me into a problem where I have a couple of entries on the list. This week it's directors that I'm having a hard time distinguishing. Right? I bring all this up because originally I had a 2-way tie at number 8, and I decided when I made my honorable mention exclusion arbitrary rule, I also decided I wasn't going to have any ties. So that means I had to decide between the director I have at 9 and the director I have at 8. And so I came up with a bunch of different ways of looking at their filmographies and my experience with them. The numbers of movies that they've directed that I've seen, the number of movies that they've directed that I loved out of the ones that I've seen. There was another one, and I've blanked on it right now. But I had these different things that I'd set up, and it was a number of titles that I own versus ones that I've just seen, like saw in the theater. Yeah, did I like it well enough to buy a copy of it? That kind of thing. So I've got these different ways that I'm looking at them, and every one of them, they were the same. It was as exact a tie as I could imagine. And it finally boiled down to, okay, I'm going to look at the hallmark of quality movie. Which one do I like better? And that ended up allowing me to distinguish between my two ties, or my two directors tied at number 8. The loser of the tie now comes in at 9, and that loser, I'm so sorry, but that loser is Don Siegel. I like a lot of Don Siegel's movies. The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original. Oh my God, is that a good, 50s horror movie? Coogan's Bluff is good. The Beguiled is deeply unsettling movie. Dirty Harry is, okay, we can argue about whether it's a good movie or not. We can argue about the politics and that sort of thing. But Dirty Harry fundamentally changed crime drama / action movies. It was a hugely influential movie. There are tropes that we're dealing with today that were directly introduced in Dirty Harry. So even if you don't like it, it made a big splash. The Shootist was a wonderful movie. So there are a bunch of really good Don Siegel movies. I learned as I was doing the filmography research for these guys, again, depending primarily on Wikipedia, so take this with a grain of salt. But the pseudonym Alan Smithee, when you see something directed by Alan Smithee, that's your cue that it's not going to be very good, because Alan Smithee is the pseudonym that directors use when they don't want their name attached to the movie. And that was coined in 1968 because of a film that Don Siegel directed. Film was Death of a Gunfighter. Was originally directed, or the original director was Robert Totten. Totten got fired and got replaced with Don Siegel. Don Siegel tried to salvage and couldn't, because essentially every decision that was made on this movie wasn't made by the director. It was made by Richard Widmark, the star. And so when it was ready to be released, Don Siegel didn't want his name on it. Robert Totten didn't want his name on it. So they came up with Alan Smithee for that movie. Nice bit of trivia I hadn't known before I started doing my reading for this particular video. But if I'm going to pick a movie that is my hallmark of quality for Don Siegel, I thought long and hard about picking Dirty Harry, but I decided instead to go with Charlie Varick. Oh my God, do I like this movie? No, I love this movie. Walter Matthau is fantastic. Not particularly well cast. He's not, just knowing the elements of the story and knowing that there has to be a certain amount of charm and magnetism there in order for the plot point about seducing the secretary later to actually make sense. And that's not Walter Matthau. But he does a wonderful job in this movie. And the movie itself is a nice, tight crime drama. I think the world of Charlie Varick, and I really like, as my number 9 director, Don Siegel. Okay, the guy who won the tie with Don Siegel, I will be honest. When I first started thinking about doing this series of videos about directors, the main reason I wanted to go ahead and do a top 10 that are unconventional choices was so that I could include this director I have at number 8. He's one of my favorite directors, obviously. He's 8 out of 10 cats. Yeah. He's one of my favorite directors, and he is, as far as I can tell, the name that is most likely to elicit one of two reactions from you, the viewing audience. Either you're not a huge fan of movies, you're here because you know me in real life and you're just checking in to see what I'm talking about this week, in which case you're going to hear the name and you're going to say, who? Or you're here because you follow directors and you like movies, you are a cinema buff, and you're going to say, seriously, you got that guy on your list? What the hell is wrong with you? My number 8 choice is Peter Hyams. I love Peter Hyams. Peter Hyams cranked out a lot of good genre movies in the 70s and 80s. Suspense and science fiction and almost a borderline horror movie or two in there. He cranked out a lot of really good stuff. Kicked off his career essentially with the movie Capricorn 1, which, if you are of a certain vintage, you're going to remember Capricorn 1. Did the 2001 A Space Odyssey sequel, 2010, The Year We Make Contact. Had a series of action movies in the 80s, Running Scared, The Presidio, Narrow Margin. Oh my God, is Narrow Margin a good movie? So he did a lot of good work. He did a lot of movies that I really like. And it got to a point where, as I was strolling the aisles in the local Blockbuster, if I saw Peter Hyams on the credit listing for a movie, I would give it a shot just because Peter Hyams directed it. And if you want to know why I love Peter Hyams as much as I do, my hallmark of quality, the movie you got to track down and watch if you have not seen it, is Outland. High Noon in Outer Space. Sean Connery is the marshal who is assigned to a mining colony on one of Jupiter's moons and has a run-in with the mining colony manager, Peter Boyle. Oh my God. The two of them are fantastic in this. James B. Sicking is a great supporting actor. Francis Sternhagen is also great. It's one of my favorite movies. And Outland, that, in a nutshell, is why my number 8 director is Peter Hyams. Coming in at number 7 on my list, I love John Carpenter. Oh my God, is he good. I've seen 7 of his movies, and one of them, Village of the Damned, I was, But Halloween, oh, fantastic. The Fog, The Thing, Christine, Starman, that's a good one. But my hallmark of quality for John Carpenter is Escape from New York. I mean, it's Kurt Russell is chewing scenery for all he's worth. Harry Dean Stanton is fantastic. Ernest Borgnine, oh my God. Isaac Hayes, Donald Pleasance, Adrienne Barbeau. I remember the Saturday Night Live spoof of the Escape from New York, which featured Adrienne Barbeau as the director's wife. But still, it's a great movie. It's good, cheesy fun, and oh man, John Carpenter did loads of that in his movies. It also has a nifty soundtrack. One of the things I like about John Carpenter is that he wrote the music for all of his movies, and primarily it's synthesizer music, and it's not music that I'm going to sit and listen to for hours on end. It's not going to enrich me or anything like that, but at the same time, it sure does fit his movies. So I like that. A nice extra dimension to his work. So I like John Carpenter. And I really like The Fog, too. The Fog almost made it as my hallmark of quality. So, number 7, John Carpenter. At number 6, we've got an actor who I briefly considered for my conventional list because he is a very well-known actor, has done a lot of very good movies, received an honorary Oscar for, contributions to the genre kind of thing. And so that says he's got a level of critical respect. But I ended up putting him on my unconventional list mostly because I've seen a bunch of his movies, and they range from the, oh my God, fantastic, to holy mother of God, what a piece of garbage that thing was. He's not as reliable. He is one of the best comic directors out there. The only director I can think of who is consistently better than he is Mel Brooks, who was a contender on the conventional list last week. But I can't think of really anybody else that I think does comedy consistently better than my number 6 director, Blake Edwards. Blake Edwards, I mean, the Pink Panther series alone is enough to have him on a list like this. But the Pink Panther, the series as a whole, is also a reason why he's on a list like this instead of last week's, why he's an unconventional choice rather than a conventional choice. The Pink Panther series starts with Pink Panther, which is like a completely different kind of movie. You watch it and, Peter Sellers not in it that much. It's, but then they realized that Peter Sellers was, hey, we got a cash cow here if we work it right. So we followed that up with A Shot in the Dark, and then Return of the Pink Panther, and Pink Panther Strikes Again, and Revenge of the Pink Panther. Okay, by the time Revenge of the Pink Panther came out, it was starting to get a little tired, but it's still very good. I would say Pink Panther Strikes Again is probably the funniest of the bunch. It's going to be Strikes Again or the Return of the Pink Panther. It's going to be one of those two. But these are all entertaining movies. They are hilarious, and Peter Sellers is fantastic, and Herbert Lom as Inspector Dreyfus is, oh my God. Oh, I love Herbert Lom in these movies. And then Peter Sellers died. And Blake Edwards kept making Pink Panther movies. He made The Trail of the Pink Panther, and I want to say Curse of the Pink Panther. Anyway, one of them is made largely with footage that was shot for but not used in the previous movies. The other was a movie where he cast Ted Wass. Ted Wass, for Christ's sake. as his new the new character. It wasn't Inspector Clouseau. It was somebody, I think, who was trying to find Inspector Clouseau. And those were just unbelievably god-awful movies. So this is a guy who was not afraid to take on a job in order to pay his bills. Which means there's an uneven quality to his work. But still, the Pink Panther movies, when they worked, were fantastic. Operation Petticoat was fantastic. Victor Victoria, oh my God, is that a wonderful movie. One of James Garner's better movies, and he got robbed by not getting a nomination for an Oscar for that. But for me, the hallmark of quality, the movie that you have to watch if you want to know why I put Blake Edwards on my list here at number 6, that movie is S.O.B. I adore S.O.B. This is oh my God, it's a funny, very darkly sarcastic view of the movie industry. And the central characters, we've got a quartet of friends played by William Holden, Robert Preston, Richard Mulligan, and Robert Webber. And oh my God, are they funny? Oh my God. Robert Webber, in particularly, is just, he kills me. There are scenes in the second hardest I've ever laughed at a movie was a scene with the guys driving Richard Mulligan around toward the end of the movie. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, if you're watching it because I recommend it, get ready. There's going to be a scene, Richard Mulligan in the car wearing a Viking helmet. You're going to love it. Oh man, I adore S.O.B. And, in addition to those guys, you've also got Julie Andrews and Stuart Margolin and Larry Hagman, and oh, it's fantastic. And you get to see Julie Andrews' boobs. I mean, come on, icing on the cake. I love S.O.B. And it is the reason why Blake Edwards is my number 6 unconventional favorite director. Coming in at number 5. At number 5, I think we've got somebody who, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he belongs on an unconventional list or a conventional list. My sense is, even though I don't know. I don't know how strong the critical support is for my number 5 choice, John Frankenheimer. John Frankenheimer has made a lot of really good movies. He was movies that he made were nominated for several Oscars. The only Oscar wins that one of his movies received went to Grand Prix. 3, I think, that 3 Oscars that Grand Prix won, and they were all technical fields. Nothing for the biggies, the actors, the writers, the director, any of that stuff. He did receive Golden Globes for directing The Manchurian Candidate and 7 Days in May. Fantastic movies. Both of those are fantastic movies. So there's an argument there that says that he probably ought to be a contender on the conventional list. But I'll be honest, I don't know that I've ever seen his name on a list of great directors unless that list is going to be like triple figures. So I'm thinking he's an unconventional choice. And I'm putting him in here. I've got him at number 5. Birdman of Alcatraz was fantastic. Manchurian Candidate and 7 Days in May, I mentioned earlier, fantastic. The Train is an interesting movie because you've got, and it seems to be making the point that trying to save this train load of artwork is a waste of time, which is not what you expect a movie like this to say. It's a fascinating movie. It takes a little while for me to become accustomed to the idea that Burt Lancaster is a French train yard manager / engineer, whatever the hell his job title was. But it's still, I like Burt Lancaster, so I'm willing to invest that effort. And it's an interesting movie. It's a puzzler. It's a good puzzler, but it's still a puzzler. John Frankenheimer also made an adaptation of Elmore Leonard's 52 Pickup, starring Roy Scheider and Anne Margaret, I believe, was the female lead in that, which was I mentioned Elmore Leonard novels made into movies last week when I was talking about Steven Soderbergh. That one of his great movies was Out of Sight, and it was a very good adaptation of an Elmore Leonard novel. And John Frankenheimer's got one of those as well. 52 Pickup is very much a movie of its time. It is dated when you watch it, but it's a good adaptation of that novel. But my hallmark of quality when it comes to John Frankenheimer is none other than Ronin. I love Ronin. It's one of my favorite action movies. It's one of those that I watch at least a couple of times a year. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen it. The performances are all good. It's a lovely movie in terms of its use of the MacGuffin. What's in the case? What was in the case? I must ask you, what was in the case? Sorry to Jean Reno fans out there. But the cast is great. Robert De Niro, Jean Reno, Stellan Skarsgård. Oh my God, is he good in that? Wonderful movie. I like Ronin a lot. And the car chase that is the centerpiece of that thing is fantastic. One of the best car chases ever filmed. I love Ronin. I love my number 5 director, John Frankenheimer. Speaking of great car chases, my number 4 director is Peter Yates. I love Peter Yates movies. If there is a contender for best car chase that will unseat the car chase that's in Ronin, it's going to be the car chase in Bullet, which pretty much is the gold standard of car chases. Peter Yates did a lot of good movies. Bullet, The Hot Rock, The Deep, Eyewitness, Kroll, Suspect. These are all the ones that I've seen. And Kroll was an interesting fantasy. It doesn't really fit in with the rest of them. But for the most, I like all of these movies. And there are a few of them that I very deeply admire. Bullet, I deeply admire that movie. But when it comes to quality, the hallmark of quality for me, it is the movie that was one of 2 movies that he received an Oscar nomination for. He didn't win, but he did receive a nomination for Best Director for his movie, Breaking Away, which I deeply admire. Breaking Away was one of those movies, I went to see it when it was originally released and didn't know what I was getting into because it was the movie that was playing that night, and it's Friday night, what the hell else are you going to do, right? And I got sucked into that movie so hard and enjoyed it so much that to this day, when I think of Paul Dooley or Dennis Christopher or Jackie Earle Haley or Dennis Quaid or Daniel Stern, even though they've all done many other things, I still primarily associate them with Breaking Away. Oh my God, it was such a good movie. It is still such a good movie. It is a gentle, loving comedy. Oh, I love Breaking Away, and it's fantastic. It's like the complete opposite of Bullet in virtually every respect. And the fact that this man can make both of those extremely different movies and make them very, very well. Oh, Peter Yates, number 4 on my list. Number 3. Here's the thing about number 3. I debated long and hard about whether I was going to include this guy at all. I needed to include him, and I thought there was a good argument for including him last week in my conventional choices because the man has won an Oscar. He's gotten an Oscar for Best Director. And that tells me this guy has some level of critical support, some level of conventional, you know, grade A stamp on his career. But he won his directing Oscar for a movie that people regularly shit on as a movie that did not deserve the Oscar that it won. And so, you know, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, no, he belongs on this list. He belongs on the unconventional list because I think my sense of it is, and, you know, take this with a grain of salt because my sense of it is based entirely on what few things I've read and the conversations I've had with people, right? So it could just be that I hang around with particularly nasty people. I don't know. But my sense is that most cinema buffs look down their noses at Robert Zemeckis. And they shouldn't, because I think he's a brilliant director. The number of movies that he has done that I have seen is, I've look on my spreadsheet. I've got 11 of them on here, and there's only one movie of all of those that I've seen that I was disappointed in, and that was The Polar Express. Don't see the appeal of The Polar Express, but everything else, I mean, I Want to Hold Your Hand, I remember seeing when it first came out and thinking that was just a swell little movie. Used Cars, I saw when it was originally released. I was one of, like, I think 10 people nationally who saw that thing in a theater when it was originally released. And I thought it was hilarious. Still think it's funny. Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I mean, come on. Yep, huge movies. Contact, I love Contact. What Lies Beneath, wonderful, wonderful, creepy ass movie. Flight, one of Denzel Washington's better movies, I think. Forrest Gump. Now, Forrest Gump, he won the director Oscar for Forrest Gump, and there are a lot of people out there who really hate Forrest Gump. I don't. I think it is a brilliant movie. It is one of the movies that I used to use when I was teaching college courses. If I taught an American literature class, and if that survey included the modern period, then in addition to reading, you know, stories by writers like, you know, Raymond Chandler and Ken Kesey, we would watch movies. And Forrest Gump was in I rotated it from semester to semester, but that was one of the movies that I would show because of the literary elements to the movie. It fit in very nicely with the discussion of the American literary canon. But for me, the hallmark of quality is the other Robert Zemeckis movie that I used in those American literature classes, and that is Castaway. I know a lot of people shit on Castaway too. I think it's fantastic. I was talking last week about how one of the things I respect about Alfred Hitchcock was his ability to get as much visual excitement out of such a small space as he was able to do in movies like Lifeboat and Rear Window. Got the same thing going here. We've got a situation where the bulk of the action of this movie takes place on a small beach and in a small cave. And yet it never feels claustrophobic. It never feels like it's restricted. There is an expansive story being told, and it's a fantastic story. The fact that Tom Hanks's character is at the end of his rope and ready to give up on he finally breaks and throws a hissy fit, and the end result of that hissy fit is the volleyball with the bloody handprint on it that he realizes looks like a face. He alters it a little bit to make it look more like a face, and then sets it down, and he's calmed down, and he gets back to work, and he starts talking to the volleyball. And it's at that point, when he has made a connection that's outside of the turmoil that is his own mind, it's at that moment that he's able to make fire. It's at that moment that he starts adapting and starts actually surviving You know, up to that point, he is on a downhill slope, and this movie is going to end, ooh, not well. But as soon as Chuck makes that connection to Wilson, he now has a support network. He's now able to survive the island, which is why it had to happen as he's on the raft. Before he gets saved, he has to lose Wilson, right? Wilson was the island. Wilson was the thing he needed to survive the island, and once he's past that, he doesn't need Wilson anymore. Brilliant, brilliant storytelling. I love that, and I loved using that in my literature classes because the students enjoyed it as well. So, my number 3 unconventional director, Robert Zemeckis. Okay. At number two, we've got a director who, if you had asked me 30 years ago, who's your favorite director? Boom. I would have spit out without even thinking. I would have said Bill Forsyth. And there's a good chance that you would have said, who the hell is Bill Forsyth? Bill Forsyth is a Scottish filmmaker who had a series of mildly popular movies in the early 80s, starting with Gregory's Girl, Local Hero, Comfort and Joy, and then he started getting a little bit of popularity and was actually Comfort and Joy had a budget that the first two didn't really have. It went on to make a movie called Breaking In with Burt Reynolds, which I just recently managed to get a copy of. Made a movie called Being Human with Robin Williams that I very strongly recommend. Gregory's Two Girls, a sequel he made to Gregory's Girl. Wonderful catalog. Wonderful director. His movies are very similar to Frank Capra movies in that they focus on community as well as the individual, and they are generally sympathetic as opposed to scornful or anything negative. They are very positive movies. They're bittersweet movies. And my hallmark of quality is one of those that I mentioned, Local Hero, starring Peter Riegert and Burt Lancaster. I mean, a lot of Burt Lancaster movies today. And it is one of my all-time favorite movies. Fantastic movie. Peter Riegert plays an executive with an oil company headquartered in Houston who is sent to Scotland to negotiate the purchase of a village. The oil company wants to put a refinery and transportation hub there. Anyway, Peter Riegert's character is selected to go to this Scottish village because his name is McIntyre. So his bosses assume that he's Scottish or that he has Scottish heritage, and he doesn't. His parents were Eastern European, and his family, his grandparents, whoever it was, when they came to America, when they immigrated to America, they picked the name McIntyre because they thought it was a traditional American name, right? But he goes, even though he's more of a telex man, he actually goes and comes to know the Scottish village, comes to love the people, and fantastic movie. Love Local Hero. Love Bill Forsyth. Very strong second place contenders to Gregory's Girl, which is a coming of age comedy, and Being Human, which is a surprisingly good movie. And I say surprisingly good because the story of it is a little threadbare. But Robin Williams, oh my God, he saves that thing. It's a well-made movie as well. So, my number 2 unconventional choice for favorite director is Bill Forsyth. And like I said, up until, here within the last probably 10, 15 years, he asked me who my favorite director was, Bill Forsyth would have been my first choice. Maybe Alfred Hitchcock, Steven Spielberg, guys from last week. Now, though, over the last probably 10 years, I've become extremely fond of my number 1 unconventional choice for favorite director, and that is Antoine Fuqua. gained notoriety. He started out as a music video director, shifted over to feature films, and right out of the gate with Training Day, had a hugely successful film. Denzel Washington won an Oscar for his performance, and he was off to the races. And I've seen Training Day, Shooter, Olympus Has Fallen, his Equalizer movies. Olympus Has Fallen, of those, is the weakest, and even it was entertaining. I enjoyed watching it. This man knows how to make a good action movie. He understands how to pace and film complex action sequences. Love his movies. Really like Denzel Washington in those Equalizer movies. Heavy violence, so if you get squeamish, go in forewarned, but still fantastic movies. But I'm going to pick as my hallmark of quality of these, probably the second least likely to be picked for a hallmark of quality. Olympus Has Fallen, I think, is the one out of the ones that I've seen that most people would say, yeah, that's probably not his best movie. The one I would pick is The Magnificent Seven, his remake of the original John Sturges movie we talked about last week. Fuqua's remake is a satisfying reimagining of the movie, right? It's not a remake. We don't have the same characters. We don't have the same motivations. The thing it has in common is we've got 7 hired guns who are brought in to defend this town from the evil rancher. Or from the evil. It's the banditos in the original Magnificent Seven. It's the evil rancher in the remake. But the pacing is good. The acting is good. Denzel Washington, of course, incapable of doing a bad job. Ethan Hawke is good. Vincent D'Onofrio is a joy in this movie. I really enjoy Fuqua's remake of The Magnificent Seven. There are, in several ways, I think it is a vastly superior film to the Yul Brynner original, the John Sturges original. There are certain things about the John Sturges original that make it vastly superior to this one as well. So, I mean, it's hard for me to say one is better than the other. But I still, if you want to know why I like Antoine Fuqua, Magnificent Seven is the movie you need to watch. Or pick an Equalizer. Equalizer 3. Yeah, go with that one. And those are my 10 choices for favorite director that are, I think, unconventional choices. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you like any of these guys? Do you hate these guys? Are you frustrated that they're all guys? Drop that comment down below. I always love hearing from you. For what it's worth, I too am frustrated that they're all guys. One thing that this exercise over the last few weeks has told me is that I need to be way more proactive about watching movies that are directed by women. I'm going to work on that. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I would appreciate it if you'd go down and click the like button. And while you're down there clicking, if you haven't already done so, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it means the world to me, so I very much appreciate it. Thanks again for hanging out with me today, and I hope that the rest of your day is gratifying. See you soon.